Good afternoon, everybody, and a very good morning for those who are joining us from the US. Welcome to today's briefing session on the EAC Fourth Band Common External Tariff. My name is Maxwell Okello. I'm the Chief Executive of the American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya. We are pleased to have you all join us, and I'd like to give special acknowledgement to our speakers and partners for today's forum. We have with us Donald Tindamanyire, who's the Principal Customs Officer, Tariffs and Valuation at the East Africa Community Customs Directorate, who is representing the Acting Director for Customs this afternoon. We also have with us John Bosco Kalisa, who's the Executive Director and CEO of the East Africa Business Council. And finally, we have with us Professor Migai Akech, International Trade, Regulation and Law Expert with Migai Akech Associates. Professor Akech will be moderating today's session. So for good order, we request that you all actually, forgive me. We request that you have your mics off and the videos on or off during this entire duration. And we encourage you that as we move along, you submit your questions in the Q&A tab. Please use the Q&A tab so that it's easy for us to monitor the questions that you're sending through. And when we get to the section in the program where we'll be fielding questions, we will then take those questions and address them. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in May of this year, the East Africa Community Council of Ministers adopted the maximum 35% rate as the fourth band in the four-band common external tariff structure for the EAC. The fourth band CET has now come into effect beginning the 1st of this month, with goods subject under this tariff ranging from dairy and meat products, cereals, cotton and textiles, iron and steel, leather products, fresh cut flowers, fruits and nuts, sugar and confectionery, coffee, tea and spices, amongst others. The fourth band common external tariff is one of the key instruments under the Customs Union and is seen as a positive step towards the promotion of industry, inter-regional trade growth, creation of employment, protection of nascent industries, and a step that aligns with the objectives of the AfCFTA. While this is a positive step from a regional integration and industrialization perspective, it is also anticipated that it will in the interim have some negative effects, for example, on the purchasing power of citizens as imports from outside of the EAC will inevitably become more expensive. And therefore today's session seeks to provide a more in-depth view and an opportunity to hear directly from the EAC Secretariat and from industry experts on the anticipated direct and indirect impacts of both local businesses and companies seeking to do business with the region. So with that said, I want to kick off today's forum by inviting our first speaker, John Bosco Kalisa, the Executive Director and CEO of the East Africa Business Council, to give his remarks. John has spent over 20 years in various roles promoting private sector development and competitiveness in the East Africa region and championing the business community's involvement in the EAC integration agenda. So John, the screen is yours. Welcome and make your remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maxwell. And first of all, allow me to appreciate you, commend you for for coordinating this insightful session, looking at the fourth band structure. And allow me also to appreciate and commend the work done by the Donald and the team from Customs. My appreciation also goes to the Professor Migai, who has been able to interrogate what does it mean by raising the current common external tariff to a fourth band structure. And also allay the concern raised by the business community. Let me again give an insight where we come from. And this is EABC has been spearheading the review of a common external tariff. And the review really take longer than expected. It commenced in 2015, but now it has just been concluded recently, as Maxwell pointed out. And our position has been very clear as the East African Business Council that we need to protect and promote our industry, nascent industries. It is through industrialization that the region would be able to create a decent employment opportunities. And it is through industrialization that we would be able to grow our economies to be competitive. So we looked at what are the merits and demerits of the current three-band structure. As you know that the previous customs union or common external tariff had a three-band structure where there was a 0% structure, the rate of 0% to cover the raw materials and capital goods. There was 10% that was covering intermediate goods. Those are goods that were geared to undergo further transformation. Then there was 25%. So one of the effect or the rationale of the review was to see that the trade, and again, where we stand, trade is a very dynamic sector. There has been the growth in terms of trade. The trends are very clear. There has been dynamics. There has been deployment of new technologies. So all those, you could find that the three-band structure were not catering for the development of our region, especially trade and some of the products that were coming on board. So one of the canons of the review was to look at the trade aspect. And again, I want to appreciate the EAC Secretariat and also the guidance from the councils of ministers, especially for trade and finance, to dive deep and look at what were the issues. Again, reviewing the current common external tariff, we realized that, and generally to give the participants why was it necessary, countries were coming up with what we call stay of application. If I give you numbers, you could find that since we started implementing customs union, the stay application by then were around 99. But currently there were almost 1,000 stay of application. It means that we are sliding from the customs union to a free trade area. So we are not, by that it means that we are going back into the free trade area because we are not deepening or implementing the customs union. Because those stay of application are subjected to a lot of abuse, a lot of favors, and sometimes what we call trade deflection. They were encouraging more smuggling because some countries that were zero rating exempting goods, others were not. It means that whoever imports in a duty-free regime would again re-export some of the product where the duties are being paid. So there was a lot of deviation and distortion that were emanating from the current state of application, again, which necessitated the review. So through the review, again, there were a number of considerations, good considerations, which I want again to put on record that we looked at the production capacity of those goods, as Maxwell you've highlighted. We looked at those goods that we've pushed at the fourth band structure, are those goods that are sufficiently available, sufficiently produced within our region. So that was a key consideration that why don't we expose our nascent industry to the external competition? So that was one of the considerations of the review. And I'm happy that that has been agreed as you rightly put it. But we also consider the welfare implication, the price effect, or the purchasing power as you put it. Through the review, we realized that, again, those goods should not be, while we are protecting our local industry or regional produced product, they should not be expensive. They should be aligned to those goods that are produced outside. There was also concern on revenue loss implication. which was also through the simulation, that was also covered there, that there are no revenue loss. Generally, there were positive gain once we promote those products because they have employment gains. So those were the consideration. And again, my remarks is that those were good consideration. What is important that we're doing as the ABC is continue raise awareness to our industrial players, to our importers, to our consumers, that they will have a very minimal impact with the current forced band structure. The current forced band structure will not increase the prices for the products. It will not create what we call trade diversion. It is there, it is meant to enhance trade creation. It is there to enhance industrialization. It is there to create employment for our region. So that is the message I wanted to convey. And again, I want to thank you, thank the EAC Secretariat, thank American Chamber of Commerce in Kenya for this engagement, and I will be able to provide further insight during the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. We appreciate your comments and definitely looking forward to the conversation later on. So I want to hand over this session to our experts, and allow me to just very, very quickly and briefly introduce both of them. Donald Tindamanyire is the Principal Customs Officer responsible for tariffs, valuation, and the rules of origin at the East Africa Community Secretariat, based in Arusha, Tanzania. Donald's experience in customs management spans over 19 years, and his key responsibilities center on ensuring the overall administration, monitoring, application of the EAC Common External Tariff, including the agreement on customs valuation and rules of origin by East Africa partner states, is in conformity with the EAC Customs Union Protocol. I also want to briefly introduce Professor Migai Akech, who is a leading specialist in international trade regulation and law with Migai Akech Associates. Migai Akech and Associates, excuse me. He has published, practiced, and consulted extensively in this area of law, and is in addition an eminent international expert in governance, having led the development of the Africa Governance Report, which is the Africa Union's premier policy publication on the state of governance in Africa. So to get us going, I want to hand over to Donald to take this home. Donald, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Maxwell, and thank you, John Bosco, for the remarks. Yeah, straight away, allow me to take you through the scope of my presentation. Yeah, we'll give a brief overview of the EAC, the structure of the CET, objective of the review, which John has highlighted briefly, criteria for classifying goods, which currently fall under the fourth band, then justification of having the fourth band, private sector position. Then I'll take you briefly on the ministerial decision, which made the decision to have 35% at the fourth band. And I'll also try to highlight products which falls under the fourth band category. Yeah, now when looking at the EAC integration, we have the 5 pillars, which I'm sure most of you are aware. In 2005, we started implementing the Customs Union, whereby partner states agreed to have a common law, common external tariff, and we are also implementing the rules of origin for goods that are originating from the EAC partner states. Then we have the common market, which we started implementing from January 2010 with the 5 freedoms, and it also includes the rights, such as the right of establishments and the right of residence. Then we have the monetary union, which was signed in 2013 with a 10-year lifespan. And on this one, I'm sure you are aware that the council had already established the EAC Monetary Union Institute, EAMI. And last, we have the political federation, where in May 2017, the summit adopted the confederation as the model towards achieving the confederation. Now, When it comes to the structure of the EACCT, the Council of Ministers has reviewed the structure of the Common External Tariff by adopting the fourth band. So initially we had the 3-band structure, but now from 1st of July, we have the 0%, 10, 25, and 35. And this was effected in the EAC legal notice number 117 of 30th June. And the CET is Annex 1 of the Customs Union Protocol, but it also has the second schedule, which covers sensitive items with the rate currently higher than 35%. And the EAC, as the region, we've implemented harmonized systems, nomenclature of the WCO. We have implemented the 2002 version, 2007 version, 2012 version, 2017, and as from 1st of July, we have started implementing the 2022 version. So this is the legal notice, which was signed by the Honorable Betty Maina, the chairperson of the council, highlighting that pursuant to the article of the Customs Union Protocol, the minister reviewed the structure. It also highlighted the structure as well as the commencement of the new structure. Now, the slide, this current slide is just trying to show now with the current structure where you have the 0% 2,245 tariff lines. And this is mainly for raw materials and capital goods. Then you have intermediate goods, 1,174. Then you have finished goods at 25%, 1.9. And then we have 25%, but with specific duty rate, and these are mainly iron and steel products. Then you have 35%, 496. But we also have 35% with specific duty rate, and this is specifically for worn articles. We have 3 tariff lines, making a total of 499 tariff lines now classified under the 4th band. But we also have 50% for the sensitive items. We again 60% sensitive item, 17 tariff lines. Then we have 75% or a specific duty rate of 345 per metric ton, which is rice. And then lastly, we have 100% and $460 per metric tons, which is for the sugar and sugar products. Now, the objectives of the review, quickly, because John has highlighted some, was to align the CET with the tariff structure with the economic environment, but also to review the CET to correspond to the global changes of trading products, but most importantly, to eliminate the stage of application, which we are destabilizing our common external tariff, but also to review the sensitive list and its applicable rates, taking into consideration the supply capacity of the region. But it was also to update the CET to the HS version, and also correct inconsistencies whereby you could have raw materials attracting the same rate with the finished products, but you also we had a situation where raw materials or intermediate goods had a higher rate compared to the finished products, yet it was supposed to be vice versa. But generally speaking, I think the review was mainly intending to promote value addition activities within the region and spur industrialization in terms of employment. And consequently, the Council adopted the 4th band structure in order to support development through increased interregional continental market, but also diversification of product banks, including the informal sector potentials. Now, coming to the criteria as to what made the decision of the regional task force to assign products into the fourth band, they were looking at the availability of products. On this one, the experts looked at the import and export data, which was used as a proxy since we had no local production data. But there was also a criteria of promoting the sectors with long value chain, as highlighted in the EAC industrialization strategy, and some of these sectors include textile and apparel, iron and steel, hides and skin, as well as chemicals. But we are also looking at strategic goods, which mainly we are looking at luxurious items and the competitive goods, which are subsidized from their export market. And for this one, specific example include cosmetics, which are classified under Chapter 33, but also some of the beverages and mineral water. And the last criteria was looking at the food security and the rural development. Now, the expert also looked at the justification for having the fourth band, which one of them was the national and the regional policies of industrialization. But we also looked at the changes in the regional economic structure, where you could have value addition for further processing of intermediate materials, and the frequent use of the stage of application, where the three-band structure was no longer accommodative, that it dumped all the items, that's intermediate and finished products, at the third band. The experts also looking at the safeguarding of revenues, sustaining sectors where there was minimum importation is taking place, which was a justification that the region is self-sufficient, but also the stakeholders' contribution to the CET process, which largely included the private sector. Now, one of the key aspects, as highlighted by JB in the opening remarks, is that the stage of application was one of the areas that experts looked at, and they looked at the comparison between the 2 years. For example, in 2020 and 2019, as highlighted in the table, 504 tariff lines were renewed under the stage of application in 2020, representing 62% of what partner states had requested for the stay in the previous year. Further to that is that of the 786 tariff lines, which were granted stays of application in 2020, 530 tariff lines were requested stays to apply a rate above 25%. And this in total represented 67% of the total tariff lines requested for a stay. Now, what was the private sector position? Is that private sector advocated that the 35% provides adequate tariff differential of 10%, which was seen to be incentivize the industrial investment in the region. And also product identified under the fourth band are those which were sufficiently available or manufactured in the EAC region. And the proposed 35% rate was arrived from a consultative process within the manufacturers. Also, the other argument from the private sector was that the tariff lines classified under the fourth band represents just 5.5% of the total tariff lines, and thus have little impact on the consumer price, since they can assess, the same products can access duty-free access in the region for goods which are manufactured from EAC, but also from the other region where EAC partner states have trade arrangement, such as COMESA, SADC, and soon when we start implementing tripartite and the AFCFTA. But the other reason was that many of the products that are currently wrapped under the third ban, which was mainly for products which are not available in the region, and thus we needed another ban to cater for products which are currently available in the region and they are finished products. In terms of social welfare erosion, the items which are proposed in the fourth band were those currently produced, and thus there will be no social welfare erosion in terms of the price increase. But also private sector submitted that price inflation would not be an issue as evidenced for the products where currently partner states were requesting for a stay of application for a rate higher than 35%. A good example being mineral water and potatoes and meat products for the Republic of Uganda, where a stay is currently requested at 60% of the import duty. Now, for the ministerial decision, the ministers considered the analysis, which was undertaken by experts on the proposed products recommended to be classified for the fourth ban, but they were also focusing on macroeconomic impact of the proposed rates. Remember, at that time we had 3 rates, 30, 33, and 35. And this macroeconomic impact, we are looking at revenue, employment, welfare, trade, and industrial development. The minister also observed that a maximum tariff band at 35 was the most appropriate, noting that in the long run, it has the most positive impact, except for the welfare loss in terms of prices, which is transitory and will be recovered from the generated added employment opportunities from the switch to local production, which is trade creation. The minister also emphasized the region had a long protection to produce own products, particularly in the area of agro-processing. But while arriving to this decision, the minister highlighted the current global trade disruption due to the crisis in Ukraine and Russia, and also the loss learned from COVID pandemic, which was seen to be a starting point for regional industrialization, that relying to goods from other regions, it creates scarcity in case of the occurrence of the pandemic or the crisis of war, as I highlighted in the current situation of Ukraine and Russia. And last but not least is that the minister emphasized the need to facilitate regional industries by adopting policies that are favorable to support their production. Now, when you come to the tariff lines that are currently classified under the fourth ban, in total, we have 499 tariff lines, but it also includes tariff lines which previously were classified as sensitive items, but since the 35% is now regarded as the fourth ban, these items are now moved to the fourth ban, and this include worn articles, batteries, and wheat grain. The list also include meat, dairy products, vegetables, plastic items, which the region to a greater extent is self-sufficient, since when you compare even to the import data, there is very little that partner states import, and there is a lot of intra-regional trade among the items. So these current slides are just illustrate in pictorial form the items which were moved, but we are also considered the rates that for the same item were attracted in the other rates. For example, for meat in Saku, it attracts 40%, while in Ethiopia, meat attracts 35%. We have butter and dairy spreads, where circle rate is up to 79%. Ethiopia is at 35%. Cut flowers and fresh flowers, this is another item where EAC is self-sufficient, and there's a lot of export with minimal imports of flowers. Also on chapter 15, animal vegetable fat oil, we have 24 tariff lines, and here, this is another sector where the minister thought there is need to promote value chains. Chapter 22 on beverages, where we have wines and spirits, and the essence was to be domestic industry in order to support tourism and the hospitality sector. Now, what are the positive effects out of this increase, or rather the new structure of 35%? First, increase in tariff revenue, because the simulation which was done indicated that partner states are going to earn more revenue from the 499 tariff lines, but we are also going to reduce imports due to trade diversion, expansion of intra-regional trade, which in the recent year, people are challenging that EAC is more trading with third parties than what they are trading among themselves. But it's also going to bring about or promote product diversification, creation of employment opportunities from production switch, creation of opportunities in terms of informal trade, and this is expected to be done through the simplified trade regime, sustenance of regional food security and rural development, and last but not least is reduction in the use of states of application to support development of national and regional value chains. Now, what's the way forward now that we have adopted the fourth band is for partner states to undertake awareness to key stakeholders on the changes that are introduced in the new CET structure. But I'm sure you are aware that EAC partner states have ratified the AfCFTA agreement. So there is need now for the Secretariat and partner states to transpose the Category A products, which accounts to 90% of the total tariff line, to the EAC CET 2022 version, but also to gazette the offer in the EAC legal notice, so that by the time when the summit endorses the start of business, which is yet to start, then the EAC partner states can benefit also from the continental free trade area. That brings the end of my presentation, and thank you so much for your attention, and over to Prof. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donald, for your excellent presentation. And thank you, Maxwell and AmCham Kenya, for inviting me to participate in this forum. And I'd like to also thank Mr. Kalisa of the East African Business Council. So I thought that I'll just raise questions for Donald. And before I do that, just to reiterate that I think he's given us a very excellent brief on the East African Community's fourth band common external tariff. Now, I think that his presentation is also very helpful for the private sector, because it indicates the products to which the fourth band applies in graphic terms, as you can see. And I am referring to the 499 tariff lines that are classified under the fourth band. So I'd like to say a few things about the rationale of the common external tariff, or just CET in short. and the challenges that have arisen from its application. And the question would be, and this is for Donald and Mr. Kalisa as well, from his experience he can share with us, will these challenges also affect the implementation of the fourth band common external tariff? And as Donald has noted, the CET seeks to achieve developmental goals, and it does that by encouraging production within higher value-added industries. In other words, it provides some, if you wish, medium-term protection for local industries to encourage production within the EAC. And I suppose Donald could share with us what are the timelines. I mean, the high levels of the tariff mean that in a major way you're protecting domestic industries from international competition, but for how long should these be happening? And so if you look at its logic, the logic of the common external tariff has been to impose no tariff on raw materials, number one. Number two, a 10% tariff on semi-finished products. And then number three, a 25% tariff on finished products. And just to try and explain why this is done the way it is, the rationale really is to provide protection, particularly to manufacturing firms that are producing or could in the near future produce goods that are classified as finished products. And it also provides some protection for goods that have already undergone some processing, but may be used as inputs into manufacturing, hence the 10% tariff on semi-finished products. And so the first thing that I think is useful is the whole question of classification. In other words, and I've heard Donald talk about this quite a bit, talking about the harmonized system of, or the HS as he called it, the classification of goods. It matters how goods are classified. And to give you an example, so depending on how the goods are classified, some goods that are raw materials or intermediate inputs could be deemed to be finished products. And if that is the case, they'd be subjected to the 25% tariff line. And so it's welcome that the EAC has updated the common external tariff to the harmonized system version, as Donald has pointed out. Donald has also pointed out that the review has corrected inconsistencies in the common external tariff. For the example he gave was of raw materials attracting the same tariff rate with finished products, or a lower rate assigned to finished products, while a higher rate is assigned to raw materials that are classified under the same heading. So the point is that goods really need to be classified appropriately if the common external tariff is to achieve its developmental objectives. And that is why it is important to determine whether you're talking about capital goods. The goods in question, are they capital goods? And here we're talking about the goods that are used for the production of other goods, for example, machines. Or are we talking about intermediate goods, goods that are used to produce final consumption goods? Or finally, are we talking about consumption goods themselves, which are the goods that are purchased by the final consumer? So from that perspective, whether the common external tariff categorization is appropriate is something that we can determine by examining the sectors to which the goods in the higher tariff categories, category 3 and category 4, are being imported. And from what economists say, if you set the common external tariff optimally, then the high tariff goods should predominantly go to the retail and the wholesale sectors. Conversely, high tariff should not be imposed on goods that are used as inputs into the manufacturing sector. And so these are things that I would be happy to hear Donald's reaction to, so that we have a better sense of the thinking behind the common external tariff. But moving on to the challenges, as we, Donald and Mr. Kalisa would very well know, the implementation of the common external tariff has experienced a number of key challenges. And so it's useful to consider whether in coming up with the fourth band, the Council of Ministers has addressed these challenges. And I just want to highlight two of them. The first, and something that Donald also mentioned, relates to the so-called sensitive items list, or the SI list. And as Donald told us, the SI list has tariff rates in excess of 35%. He gave us examples of products that have tariffs of 50% and one that has 100% tariffs. And many of the items in that list have tended to be food staples. And they increased prices as a result of the high tariffs on these items disproportionately affect poor households. But the goal of the SI list is to provide protection, extreme protection if you wish, to specific industries. However, because of the adverse impact of that protection, member states have tended to repeatedly apply for exemptions by requesting stays of application. And John mentioned some 1,000 stays of application so far. So the stays of application, briefly, are the exemptions that member states can request from the Council of Ministers. And a stay of application would allow a member state to apply a tariff rate that differs from the rate of the CET, including, of course, the SI list. And the typical period that they seek exemption for is usually 1 year. Although I'm not, it's not clear to me whether it can go beyond 1 year. But John and Donald can tell us more of how it works from the perspective of the EAC Secretariat. And in his presentation, Donald notes that one of the justifications for the fourth band was to discipline the frequent use of those stays of application. And he also noted that many of the requests for stays were for tariffs above 25%. So I suppose that establishing the fourth band helps to discipline the use of the stays of application. But what I noticed when I looked at, and I'm just quickly trying to get to it as well, when I looked at the ministerial, the Council of Ministers decision, the legal notice, I noticed that it contains very many stays of application. So at the very top, if you go to the page 4, it will tell you that Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda are to stay application on goods imported for implementation of projects under a special operating framework arrangement with the government at 0%, as approved by the minister responsible for finance for 1 year. Rwanda on electric and hybrid vehicles, Rwanda to stay application of the CET. Electronic motorcycle, Rwanda to stay application of the EAC. Surgical gloves, Uganda to stay application of the EAC CET. So on and so on. So the question would be, so you have in the revised CET, you have many stays or requests for stays of application. So how then, and this is a question for Donald, is a revised CET going to be beneficial to the promotion of industrialization and in safeguarding consumer welfare? Won't the stays of application distort the effectiveness of the CET's fourth band as well, as it has done with, particularly with the third band as well, I mean, in the past? The other challenge, and I'm coming to the end of my reaction, the other challenge that I see relates to what is called the duty remission scheme of the East African community. And the question is, how will the duty remission scheme of the East African community impact the implementation of the common external tariff? Just to give you, just to highlight what I mean by, or what is meant by the duty remission scheme. One, the effect of duty remission is that dutiable products are to be imported at the rate of 0%. So essentially, there'll be no duty on affected products. And for these, you want to look at a number of provisions of the applicable laws and regulations. The primary one being Article 37 of the East African Customs Union Protocol. And that one provides that the partner states agree to support export promotion by facilitating duty and value-added tax remission schemes. That then is taken a step further in the law that is seeking to implement it, and that is the East African Customs Management Act. Section 140 of that act says that the council may grant remission of duty on goods imported for the manufacture of goods in a partner state. And then to even give you better regulation, better detailed regulation, the community has come up with the East African Community Customs Management Duty Remission Regulations of 2008. If you look at Regulation 3 of those regulations, the duty remission regulations, you might call them in short, it provides that the council may grant remission of duty under Section 140 of the Act on, number one, goods that are imported for use in the manufacture of goods for export. And number two, such goods imported for use in the manufacture of approved goods for home consumption as the council may from time to time determine. So what you have here is quite extensive discretion being given to the council and the council to grant remission. So the question would be to Donald, could the administration of the remission scheme undermine the implementation of the CET's fourth band? And if so, how does the EAC propose to deal with these challenge? I will stop there for now. And I suppose, Maxwell, how do we proceed? Do we hear from Donald first, or we can take a few questions from the participants?
Yeah, I think you've raised some fundamental issues that it would be good to give Donald a right of reply, and then we can quickly move to questions from the participants. And Prof, you can look at your the chat as well as the Q&A.
Yes, I am.
Several questions.
Yes.
And it's clear that we should have allocated a little more time for this particular conversation. So I hope members and those in attendance can bear with us. We will go over the 4 p.m. mark, at least for another 10 or so minutes. So please bear with us. Thank you. Over to you, Donald.
Yeah, thank you, Maxwell, and thank you, Prof. Yeah, okay, I'll start with the stage of application, as rightly put by Prof, that much as the council has revised the structure of the CET, but when you look on the Gazette of 30th June this year, there are quite a number of stays granted to other partner states. And I just wish to bring to your attention, Prof, if you recall, the decision by the ministers to adopt the fourth band was reached in May, just a week before the pre-budget consultation of the Minister of Finance. So at that time, partner states had already undertaken consultation for the current financial year. So it was not possible because the minister made a decision, I think it was on Thursday, and then from Monday, Minister of Finance convened in Mombasa to deliberate on the budget proposals. So it was thought that it's better to allow partner states to go with what was already consulted in their capitals for this financial year. So it is expected that the new structure will take into effect probably from the next financial year. But secondly, is that when the ministers were making a decision of 35%, they also recognized the fact that the society or community could have been affected by the high increase, but also there could be some products which are affected by the current global crisis. So they made a decision that partner states identify products which have been affected by the current global crisis so that a lower rate can be applied to sort out or rather address the effect of the crisis. And indeed, you note that some of these products, for example, refined edible oils, which was agreed to be moved to the fourth band, a number of partner states requested for a stay not to apply the rate of 35%. It also applied to byproducts of Chapter 15, that is soaps and many other items. So this is why you can see that we have a lot of states, despite the fact that partner states have adopted the new band. Now, when you asked about the duty remission, indeed, the protocol, the CMA and the regulation provide for different types of remission. And these ones, we have remission, which are cut across the whole region. That's regional remission. A good example being sugar for industrial use, which is granted to manufacturers of confectionaries and beverages. They are allowed to import sugar for industrial use at a duty rate of 10%. And the finished products can circulate within the community freely by enjoying the preferential tariff treatment of 0%. But you could also have a country-specific duty remission. That is a specific partner states or two partner states request for duty remission for specific products. Now on this one, the finished products, when they are sold to other partner states, which do not enjoy the same remission, those finished products will attract the common external tariff. That is, rules of origin will not be applicable to those goods. And the last category is goods, duty remission to manufacture goods for exports. So these are intended to manufacture, but you are supposed to sell them outside the EAC territory. And in an event, finished products are sold in the EAC, they will attract the common external tariff because duty remission for export on whatever raw materials is at 0%. And this is put to avoid unfair competition or treatment between players who are enjoying remission at a lower rate vis-a-vis those who import and pay full duty. So as you had said, Prof, all this, they are intending to promote industrialization and production because you have seen for those farms or sectors which have been enjoying remission of duty, EAC have really developed. You have many more players, for example, in terms of confectionaries, we have a lot of players in all EAC partner states. That's why I had indicated in my presentation that there are countries like Uganda who are applying 60% import duty. But that price is not felt because most of the locals are supplied by the what is local being manufactured. Now, for in terms of protection, I think you are right that the sensitive items mainly caters for foodstuff, particularly which are raw, and the intention was to ensure that EAC promotes those specific sectors. And I think this decision was reached due to the fact that the region was seen to have more comparative advantage on the sectors. But I would say, in a way, there have been positive effects on this in terms, for example, when you look at the sugar industry, we are now having data, we have been informed, a country like Republic of Uganda is now supplying even to other partner states. So we believe the high rate on sugar has incentivized investors to come and invest in the sugar industry. We also have seen textile and apparel. EAC has taken advantage of that. We have made a lot of prayers in the textile and apparel, and to promote this, the council made a decision to identify industrial input and raw materials to promote textile and apparel as well as footwear. So manufacturers of those sectors, they enjoy regional remission on specified items, which intends to promote that sector, which is also categorized or falls under one of those sensitive items. So briefly, I would say that the protection well is good, but like for the 35%, it's not more of like being protecting, but because there are a number of factors which were considered for the ministers to make that decision. And it will not have, I would say, time frame, but rather when you read the protocol, it's very clear that after 5 years, every 5 years, the council can review the rate. So it will be now upon the partner states to submit their concerns or issues they think the council need to review. But it's also worth noting that the Minister of Finance, every year, they have powers to review the structure of the EACCT in terms of providing for regional split. Ministers may also increase or decrease the duty rate, collapse some of the regional split, which are not at 6-digit level of the WCO nomenclature. So still, this review, I think, is a process. And I would encourage that the private sector, if you have any issue, to channel them through the respective institution for consideration in every pre-budget consultation meeting. I submit, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Donald, for your very illuminative answers. Now, I see quite a number of questions or comments from the audience. I suppose I could take 3 first, and then let's see if we have time for more. So, Donald, the first question would be, that is being asked is the following. What if we do not have the capacity to manufacture products on global standards? Won't that make global products too expensive for consumers? And then there's then a comment that some consumers would rather use imported products, not local products. So that is one. The second question relates to pharmaceuticals. And the question is, have any of the pharmaceutical molecules for which the EAC has verified sufficient local production been considered for a CET? And let me take one more. The comment is it is not always we get such a major change. So is this expected to be monitored and amended year by year, or will we continue to use stays where required? I suppose you've addressed that one, Donald, but please take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Yeah, for the last one, as you've right said, is that partner states still have the room to submit their comments on the current EACCT in terms of the rate, whether to increase or decrease, but that should be through the ministers responsible for finance, because this should be a consultative process. And we understand there could be some issues among manufacturers or even consumers on what rate has been done, but we just want to assure you, Prof, and colleagues who are on call, that this was a consultative process involving all stakeholders in all partner states. So we are receiving comments from the nationals, we meet, and as you are aware, EAC decision is consensus-based. So if one partner state was not buying into the idea, that product was not moved to the fourth ban. Now, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, it's true that while reviewing the CET, some partner states submitted that there are some molecules which are local manufactured. But if you look at the structure of Chapter 30 of our CET, which is pharmaceutical, much as they are finished product, these were regarded as goods of social welfare. So there was a feeling that if you increase the rate on pharmaceutical, it will have adverse effect to the community. And there was even a proposal to split some of these molecules, but the decision by the council was to direct partner states, engage experts who are in the industry, as well as tariff experts, to see how best to do that, because at regional level, there was no consensus to neither increase the rate nor to do a regional split. When it comes to standards, that was one of the arguments during the review, that some of these products EAC cannot produce to standard. But now, to counter this, you would all recall that we have XQM Act, Standard Acts, and EAC. We all have the Bureau of Standards. So whatever product that is imported outside the EAC, that standard is monitored by our Bureau of Standards. So that argument was seen not to have merit, because it would mean that manufacturers in the region are manufacturing substandard product, yet it's not the case. And that's why the decision was, fine, if someone wishes to import a product that is of his favorite or preference, then he will have to pay the price for it, because the same is manufactured here. A good example being mineral water, for example. I'm sure most of EAC partner states, when you go even to most of the hotels, you use mineral water, which is local manufactured. But it doesn't mean that people are prohibited from importing mineral water. But what we are saying, if your preference is to use an imported mineral water, then you'll have to pay a higher price for the same. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Donald. And may I apologize to the people that asked those questions, and let me just recognize them. The first question was from Judy Magic. The second question was from Thomas Walter, and the third question was from Joseph Limo. Now, I suppose we have just a little time for a few more. So let me just get on with it. Catherine Langat from the African Seed Trade Association asks, first of all, she thanks you for your update, and then asks, from her understanding, some plant seed species attract 10% tariff, while others attract 25%. Is this interpretation correct? And secondly, what informed these variations? And finally, to clarify, the process is finalized, the process of establishing the CET, I presume. Is it finalized? And does that then mean there is no further consultation anticipated? So that is one. And Mr. Richard Mugo comments that the first presenter stated lack of production data. which he thinks is serious. Are we sure we are making the right decisions without accurate production data? How can this be resolved? How is production data organized and managed in other economies? And then finally, Angelo Musinguzi asks, the East African partner states, if East African community partner states are at different stages of development, will the new tariff deepen the issue of asymmetry? Back to you, Donald.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Yeah, on plants and the vegetables, first of all, and seeds in the EAC CT are tracked 0% because they are regarded as raw materials. But we also have the exemption in the 5th schedule of the EAC Customs Management Act 2004. And when you look at edible vegetables, for example, of Chapter 7 of the CET, all these are tracked 25% because the assumption is these are finished products, but also EAC is capable of manufacturing the product. So when it comes to seeds, plants, I think that's what the current situation. Principle of asymmetry, I missed that one. What exactly one?
The question, if I may repeat it, is, I'm just looking for it, is
Maybe,
first.
The moderator, I may respond to Angelo, who raised the question of asymmetry, and it is even provided under the treaty that economies they are not at the same level of development. So he was asking that this new force band may deepen the asymmetry in terms of development. And I think to add to what Donald mentioned, when you look at the negotiation, the consensus building coming from all the countries, and again, speaking from the private sector, EABC, we did a consultative engagement with all the manufacturers across the region. So within this band, there is a level of flexibility. Maybe that is the right word I need to use, where you find that your economy, your industry is affected by the band. There is a kind of flexibility for you to come up with a proposal that may be considered to reappeal or reverse the ban. As Donald highlighted, when you look at the like sugar for industrial use, and you can even see it within the Gazette, some countries like Rwanda and Burundi, they have continued to request for stay of application for the sugar because of the nature of the industry, which is still at a nascent level. Uganda, that is moving towards sufficient capacity, may request for an increment or may request for a high tariff. So those considerations have been taken into consideration. Again, responding to Angelo on the asymmetry component, that this may depend and those are some of the considerations when we are negotiating. Some countries was, for example, were pushing for a 30 band, the first band to be 30%, but we gave a kind of a transitional period. And as Leonard said, no, we look at it, let's implement it gradually, transitionally. When there is some negative effect, then there's a need for review, and it will be reviewed per product, per tariff line. So those considerations are taken into consideration. Perhaps that is maybe Donald may want to add to that, but there is a level of flexibility within the current band. The question on the, again, when something is gazetted, I wanted to maybe point to that. I think there's no further consultation. What is maybe important that we are required is more engagement, sensitization and understanding, and EABC is doing that to deepen understanding deepen understanding among the business community, among the manufacturers, those who are affected, so that we're able to correct and correlate that information, which we can submit to the Council of Ministers. So during the next budget reading, those considerations will be taken into those effects will be taken into consideration. Otherwise, once it is gazetted, I see very limited room for further inclusion of further ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you very much, Donald, for your responses. Maxwell, I think I'll hand over the proceedings to you.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. I do recognize that there's still a few questions that are outstanding, and I know we've completely run out of time. However, I want to just very quickly address two here, and please, panelists, if you may just add on to this. One is a question on whether the fourth band covers manufacturers of vehicle manufacturers or assemblers, as it is in Kenya. Just a quick response to that. Donald?
Yeah, thank you, Maxwell. Unfortunately, Chapter 87 is not affected by the fourth band. So there was no agreement to move the items to the fourth band. So vehicles of Chapter 87 attracts 25% at the maximum rate. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Then secondly, whether it applies to corn imports, so maize. So there's the maize import and then there's corn seed as well. So maize seed, does it apply?
Yeah, for maize is a sensitive item. And when you're importing maize, the duty rate is 50%. So it's even above the fourth band.
All right.
Yeah.
What about seed?
Seed, as I stated earlier, seeds are regarded as raw materials, so they are attracting 0%. And they also have a general exemption under the Customs Management Act. So whoever imports seeds, imports it at 0% import duty.
Okay, fantastic. Then the last one from Hadija, who's asking the practicability of the application of the fourth band, given that it's already come into effect from 1st of July. However, she's saying that we don't even have the full list of affected products or tariff lines are not yet available in this year. And is there any reprieve on penalties and interest for especially green channel importers who continue to import using the old rates?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, from 1st of July, it means Customs Administration uploaded the new CET 2022 version. So there is no possibility, there is no way one can import an item using an old rate as far as its import duty. Because from 1st of July, the new version was uploaded into the system. In terms of the list, as I indicated earlier, and also John heard on this, is that once the ministers agreed, the list was circulated to respective partner states. And as John has said, I think there is need for more sensitization, and that was even included in my last slide, way forward. We need to sensitize stakeholders on the new changes, the list of items. But as for now, I think whatever has been gazetted as the law states is you are supposed to implement. So if there are challenges, I think it's to take note of that and then report to respective ministries to see if there's a room to review the same in the upcoming policy organs meeting. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we are doing our part to ensure that the word is out on this, and this particular platform today is part of that effort. We will also, on the request of those who are participating here, share with everybody your presentation, Donald, together with the list the list of tariffs given the Gazette notice that was circulated with the notification from the decision by the ministers. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think this has been a very, very illuminating session. I want to thank our speakers and partners, Donald Tindamanyire from the EAC, John Bosco Kalisa from the East Africa Business Council, of course, Professor Migai Akech with Migai Akech and Associates. I want to thank all AmCham and EABC members who attended today's forum, even others beyond our membership who got an opportunity to attend this session this afternoon. We really want to appreciate you and do really hope that this session has been edifying and it has answered some of the questions that you had regarding the fourth band of the EAC CET. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring this session to a close. And again, once more, thank you all and wish you God's blessing for this evening. Thank you and bye-bye.